with the prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Jesus Christ, Bhagavan Krishna, Mahavatar Babaji, Lari Mahashai, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, our Guru, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow to all of you. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, great Gurus, receive our love, receive our desire to love you more, to attune our hearts and minds with your great presence. Om, peace.
Speak truth to the people. To identify the enemy is to free the mind. Free the mind of the people. Speak to the mind of the people. Speak truth. Hide nothing from the masses of the people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victory. When we lose our African connection, we lose our rural connection. When we disconnect ourselves from Africa, we cease to be a world people. Without the African connection, we are a disjointed people, begging for the entry into somebody else's house.
Life, prosperity, and health to you. Reading from the book of the Hosea, the most ancient of books, the oldest book ever written. I am African, not because I was born in Africa. I am African because Africa was born in me. Words from our ancestor Osajifo Kwame Nkrumah. From the book of the Hosea, the book of knowing the creations. Thus said Ra, the Lord of all, Lord of the utmost limits, after she had come into being, I am the one who came into being as Kippur, he who comes into being and brings into being. When I came into being, being itself came into being. All beings came into being after I came into being. Many were the beings that came forth from the commands of my mouth. Heaven had not yet come into being, nor had earth come into being, nor had the ground been created, or the things which creep and crawl upon it. I raised up beings in the primordial waters as inert things. I found no place on which to stand. I formed it from the desire in my heart. I laid the foundation through Ma'at. I created forms of every kind. Many were the forms which were issued forth from the commands of my mouth. Not yet had I established Shu, the power and principle of light and air, nor sent forth Tefnut, the power and principle of moisture. There existed no one who acted together with me. I conceived it in my own heart, and there came into being a vast number of forms of divine beings, as forms of offspring and forms of their offspring from them. I came forth from the plants which I created, and I created all things which creep and crawl and all things that exist among men. Then by the power and principle of light and air, and the power and principle of moisture, heaven and earth were brought into being, and by earth and heaven, Osiris, Horus, Seth, Isis, and Nephthys were brought into being from the womb. Brought into being one after another, and they gave birth to the multitudes upon this land. From the book of knowing the creations, the Hosea, you're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running African. Appearances to the mind are of four kinds. Things either are what they appear to be, or they neither are nor appear to be, or they are and do not appear to be, or they're not and yet appear to be. Rightly to aim in all these cases is a wise woman's task. Epictetus, appearances to the mind, four kinds. Thank you so much for joining us inside of the Africa Forum this morning. My name is KABU Maat Kheru. My broadcast assistant is Shamara Preston. We go through until 10 o'clock. At 10 o'clock, the Big A comes in with the Sunday sunshine. A lot to tell you about this morning. Of course, we're continuing our discussion on the fourth industrial revolution, mastering the fourth industrial revolution. Tell you more about that on the other side of this. Just putting a little drum in there to get you out of bed. And no, no church this morning, streaming live. And some of you are going to be watching on the internet, your favorite church services, and some won't. And so you're a little bit lazy this morning, not getting out of bed because you're just going to chill. The curfew is going to go up until 7 a.m., so you've got some time, just a little bit over half an hour. So I know how it goes. So a little drum in the background is just to get you up to do some stretches. Remember, I know how it is. We're all going through it, believe me. Many are disciplined to be still doing the exercises and so on. But even if you're not going outside to jog, even if you're not running around the house or running in your neighborhood or doing the exercises the way you used to do the exercises, then just get up and do some stretches. Remember those stretches we used to do and do the apart together? Get out of the bed and just do apart together, apart together, apart together. You know how it go? Just kind of get the blood flowing, because we're talking about boosting the immune system, but exercise is a part of that, you know. All right? So get up and do some stretches, you know, put your hands up and try reach for that star or the moon or the sun or whatever it is you're reaching for. But do those stretches, you know, left, right, reaching for the star, and bend and do touch your knees and touch your toes and go from left to right. Do some stretches and get yourself ready for the rest of the morning or the rest of the week. I know how difficult it is. We're eating more than usual because we're very near to the kitchen. Not going out to work, not going out to the farm, not going out to do anything much. We're in lockdown, more or less. They're not calling it that. But we're in isolation, self-isolating. So while you self-isolate, do your stretches in the mornings when you get up. Just do some stretches in the mornings. And remember to drink water, hydrate. And, you know, we talk about boosting the immune system all the time. So cut out some of what you would normally just grab on the go and get some herbs, man. Do some fever grass, drink a little bit of that. You know, a little bit of ginger with turmeric and moringa and rosemary. You know, boost your immune system and ensure you're putting more yellow stuff in your food. More pumpkin, more carrots, and we mentioned turmeric just now, but anything yellow is good for you. Eat your vegetables and eat more fruits if you can. Eat from the yard. What do you have in your yard? If you don't have anything in your yard, then try and do, as I said before, do a little bit of your ginger with your turmeric. And if you have the moringa, it's really good. It's all over Jamaica. If you have rosemary, it's also good. But fever grass, good too, you know. So drink some fever grass tea. All right? So to get you in the mood, wow. What a week. What weeks gone? So we're doing this self-isolation thing, and we're isolating even from our neighbors, and we're isolating from our families. But there is an upside to all of this. And the upside to it is spend more time meditating, spending more time with your family. I know that can get away sometimes, but try not, even with your arguments, you know, try not let the sun go down on your wrath. You know, try and fix it before you go sleep. Apologize if it's apology you need to give. When you need space, go into a different room, or somebody go to the yard, or somebody go to the veranda. You know, you don't always have to be in each other's faces. But so I know it's a difficult time. The upside to this, though, is that the time it gives us to know each other again and to know self again without being on the run like that, you know, just on the hustle, whether it's work vibe or just trying to make two ends meet. Now we've got some more time for self. I understand poverty and all that is involved in that, in just isolating at this time. And, you know, this morning I was driving to work. Usually coming to work on a morning like this, I'd be seeing on the road the fishermen going early in the morning, going out to fish. And I didn't see any this morning. And, they dawned on me. I said, but they closed the beaches. So if they closed the beaches, did they also close the sea to the fishermen? I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. But, so people's livelihoods are impacted in a great, great way. And so there's stress. And I know the strain that you're under. And I know you're trying to hold it together. We have information from government that they are assisting some families. We know how that is. We know how difficult that is. We saw some stuff online not looking so good at all. But I hope that is working and that many of you are already being assisted in one way or the other. We'll try and find out. So we know that you're holding strain. We know that you're holding it right here just to get through to the next day. In homes where there are children and children are hungry 24/7 and you can't find the meal to keep that going, I understand how difficult that is also. I know there are many challenges, many challenges that you're facing as a family or even by yourself as a single person. And so that it's be talking about getting up and exercise, that so many of you might already be in depression. But we're going to have to find a way to tap into ourselves and to each other. Look out for your neighbor, even though you're social distancing and physically isolating. Look out for your neighbor. Listen out for those in your community, and your community is just not the place you live, but it's where you also socialize. Look out for each other now more than ever when we are social distancing. Now more than ever is a time for us to get closer together, and I don't mean physically closer, because I think we must adhere to what they're telling us in terms of the social distancing and so on, but closer together by tapping into the needs of each other. Each one is going to have to help each one, help the other. This is how we're going to get through this. Some of us at the end of this might be okay because our cupboards are full and our house is full of picnic. And we know where the next meal is coming from, and we're not being abused by our partners, and our children are not being abused in the homes, and we're not abusing our children. So we might get out on the other side of this, ready for whatever is coming on the other side of this. But there are many who are within this, who are going through this, or having a difficult time. That we know, because that is a reality of what our lives have been. So that we still have the emotional, the financial, the physical abuse. We still have the abuse of children who are in homes with incestuous relatives, children who are in homes with abusive parents who are sexually molesting them and have been sexually molesting them. So we've got a lot to look out for and to answer to within our community. So we've got to be each other's keeper in this time and during this time. This is the only way we're going to get through this and out of this into the other side of this fourth revolution, industrial revolution, or no, as whole persons. So let us try and do that. If you've got more than you need, share. And even if you don't have more than you need, split it in some, fraction and give it to someone that you know is in need. All of us know people who are in need. All of us. Even if we have to beat the curfew to help. So let us do that, please. So we're still looking at the mastering the fourth industrial revolution. We've been talking about this, what's happening within this process, and we want to underscore all that I've said from the very beginning, which is that we get it. We get it. COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, we know the virus is wreaking havoc. We know what we have, 69 persons now. And so we get that. One of the things that I want to say, though, is that while we boost the immune system, because we're being told to self-isolate, to social distance, physical isolation, and wash our hands, cover our nose and mouth when coughing or sneezing, and so on. We've been told all of that. And as I have said in this space from the very beginning, one of the things that we're not hearing so much about from that space that's telling us all of that is how to take care of our physical being, to prevent the virus, but also just to survive. And we've underscored that this is boosting your immune system. We've gone through that, how you do that on many, many different programs. Just made reference to it a while ago again. So remember that is where you're at in terms of the physical isolation. That's, as a people, that is what we're bearing in mind, boosting the immune system. But we still know that while we're self-isolating and physically distancing and social distancing, that there's so much happening around us. One of the things that we identified is that there is ongoing a global reset. And so that we've been looking at this, that we've asked a question in the very first week, how the coronavirus is being used to justify a global reset, whether it's a global financial reset, a global political reset, a global social reset, you name it. So we've been looking at that, and we've carried you through some of the spaces, looking at the new era of global competition and so on, and asking the question, where do we fit in all of that, and how do we come out on the other side, mastering what it is that is about to face us. As I say in this space all the time, we're not all going to die, and many of us won't die. So when we come over from this space, what then, and where do we go from here? So we're looking at, this has taken us, of course, to the ubiquitous fourth industrial revolution. And so we're looking at some of the dramatic changes happening all around us and the exponential speed at which all of this is happening, where we have looked at the system overall that is taking place. They're doing something about us, without us, and we're paying some attention to that. We have looked at the central bankers and the financial planners agreeing on this global reset. We have underscored that the politicians are mere pawns in this global reset. And one of the things that we've said is that we do, regardless of all of this, we the people do have fundamental rights to privacy. And we asked the question very early on in the day, if the framers of a constitution intended to make the right to privacy a fundamental right. And there were reasons why we were asking those questions. I'm doing this quick little recap because we're going forward with the discussion from last week. This is part 2, mastering the fourth industrial revolution. Because one of the things that we identify that within the global reset is the focus on digital surveillance, control, and the unmitigated printing powers, 3D printing and so on. We had also asked, as a global people, and this is why I have been reported, and I'm going to underscore this, that this program and myself were being reported to the broadcasting regulators as causing public mischief. And one of the things they underscored and pointed to in saying that I'm causing public mischief is because I phrased this question, I asked this question, raised this question in the space which I'm raising again, even while this is being investigated, is that why are we all of a sudden so trusting of the global state for leadership? There's the same global state, there's the same state that we have not trusted before, but we are trusting it so much now for leadership at a time like this. And we underscored that they're doing something about us without us. So the crisis is providing an opportunity for them to do things that they would not do before. So we've got to pay attention. And this attempt to silence the voice of reason, to silence the voice of truth, it's to say the least disgraceful. But we're still saying there's no need for panic. panic is gripping the world. We see that the markets are crashing. We see that they're cancelling the economies across the world. We see that, and the world is grinding to a halt. We're seeing that. We're also looking at the new financial paradigms that are coming out of all of this, and one of the things that we identified was the use of the digital currency. We said that it would be surveillance-based, and one of the things that we identified also is that, you know, they're covering their economic sins. The economic sins of the unsustainable times past is something else that is happening here. So it's a perfect opportunity for the world's financial planners to cover their past sins of mega bubbles, unsustainable inflation and debt creation, and wiping the slate clean. So we're still maintaining that. But how do we? What does this mean for all of us as African people, as black people? They have said that it's not good for a crisis to go to waste. Well, we need to say the same thing, if you ask me. You know. So we're continuing our conversation. We've looked at so much, but we're continuing this morning on mastering the fourth industrial revolution. Stay with me while we do that and tell you what's coming up also inside of the program this morning.
The time, courtesy of Benjamin's, is
now 6:37, and you're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running African. All right, so coronavirus. The Latin, you know, corona, it means crown, and virus means demon. Did you know that? So if you're to really break it down, you know, take it down, break it down, it's really crown demon, coronavirus. All right, so as I said earlier, so we're seeing the panic and the pandemonium generated in the wake of the COVID-19. The pandemic has come also with a revelation of naked truth, the naked truth of Jamaica being a failed state when it comes to addressing the welfare of its black majority population since August 6, 1962 to the present day. We're looking also at the global response to COVID-19. It's scripted by the World Health Organization, and in doing this, the WHO has ensured and is ensuring that all governments everywhere are on the same page, highlighting Hygiene 101. We're seeing that of sanitation and hand washing, well-known measures to prevent contraction and spread of infection. We should have been doing that in any case. So the paradox, though, is that while there's a media blitz sensitizing the public of these measures, including social distancing, we're seeing the ban on gatherings and curfews, compliance in all of these cases, globally, all of these cases was largely successful due to the prevailing climate of intense fear. And if you think about it, you will agree with me. Just think about it. So we have the stress accompanying the compliance, and this has been and is being almost as harmful as the disease itself. Stress, as we have been telling you, negatively affects the immune system. As a matter of fact, the stress will kill you long before the disease if we don't find a way to release ourselves of the fear and of the stress. So we see a large section of the Jamaican population that have been experiencing for the very longest time social distancing resulting from classism, from racism, from poverty. As a matter of fact, if you check it, a very popular way to talk here in Jamaica is to talk about the segregation line of whether your address is above halfway tree or below halfway tree. And that is acceptable in the Jamaican space. And most people use it. to delineate the social distancing that is part of Jamaica's reality. It's political. So many people in Jamaica now are without potable water. If you check the social media spaces, you'll see people are crying out. No water to drink, no water to bathe, much less to carry out frequent hand washing. And so that's another paradox. In implementing the curfew, security personnel, we're laughing at this, inadvertently, it would appear to many of us, display some kind of ignorance and naivety as they rounded up the homeless persons, instructing them to go home. And you saw that on the television, didn't you? You've heard about that. And we laugh at it. It's funny in a way. But sometimes we laugh because we're afraid to cry. So many homeless on the street, and the minister boasts that they're feeding them. The homeless, feeding them. And the security have rounded them up and are saying to them, go home. It's an interesting situation. The truth is that large numbers of people are homeless. Large numbers of people in Jamaica are landless. This is a failure of a state on behalf of those affected, especially in light of our history of never being given a fair shake or even break to succeed. As the authorities urge people to stay home, such messages do not resonate, or apply to the homeless, to the landless, or to the stateless, and we're calling them squatters. Where do the squatters go? Where do the squatters go? Where do the homeless go? In a quarantine, in a lockdown, in social distancing. Many people live in ghettos, in garrisons, in gullies, in tenement yards. And they're usually large families. We call them poor. They're occupying small spaces with overcrowding, a lack of privacy, high risk of violence and abuse with nowhere else to go. Where do they go? It's a politics of this. And they want us to be silent. We're not to talk about this because there is a pandemic going on. And the WHO says that we should all be talking with one voice. But we cannot all be talking with one voice because we're individuals made up of trillions of cells. It's a community. When you're looking at one person, you're looking at a community. Trillions of cells. We can't all be talking with the same voice. We know that in Jamaica, normally to make do, a lot of persons are now taking turns to stay inside to ease the tension. You go in now and then me go out, and you go in and me go out. And some people are staying inside right into tension, and people are being abused. Where do you go? How do you go home? So when the state sanctioned them not only to go home, but to stay inside, it's tantamount to being significant measure of a tyranny. And I call it like I see it. Because if you're not providing for the go inside, if you're still squatters, if you're homeless, landless, and I've been so since 1962. Well, before that, but we're talking about the so-called independence, because if we're independent, there's certain things that we should be responsible for ourselves, don't it? If we're really independent, or call it as it is then. Say we're not independent. So COVID-19 has served to unveil the naked truth of a state's failure to address the basic needs and human rights violations of the black masses after almost 58 years of self-government in Jamaica. It is an unmasking. So even while we don our masks made out of all kinds of materials, even while we put that on, and they tell us now to wear masks everywhere we go. So while we put on the physical mask, we're unmasking the failure of a state over so many years, 58 years, to address some of these issues that we're talking about. It unveils the truth that government is all about governance and power, caring for the people is not a priority, except when they are required to rubber stamp them to continue with the core business of their kind of governance. And so in this unmasking of the state, an unmasking of a truth, because truth must out, we are bearing witness to this. It is our responsibility when we bear witness to determine where in all of this we stand. We can act, we can speak, or we can be part of the problem. So these are some of the issues that we're faced with. These are some of the issues that, without fail, is replicating itself across the Caribbean. Mastering the fourth industrial revolution. Even while we aspire to be so, because this will affect the very essence of our human existence. Even while we aspire to master what is about to come, we must at the same time call out that which is a reality in the space. In this space, for me, I do this because I have a moral right and a moral obligation to do so, to put sustained attention on an issue that is of such far-reaching implications. So we're putting that sustained attention on this issue in this space. We're calling upon ourselves for sound judgment and for you for sound judgment. And we're employing evidence-based debate and assessments, evidence-based. So I really am not guessing about anything that I've said here, and if I speculate and I'm not sure, I identify as such. So sustained attention, sound judgment, and evidence-based debate and assessments. Mastering the fourth industrial revolution. Now, let me tell you what's coming up in the program this morning, even as we discuss that. My very special guests will include, and I'm very happy that we are able to have, for the majority of the program this morning, my very good friend and brother, quantum physicist, mathematician, scholar of ancient Kemetic cosmology and cosmogony, Professor KABU Maat. You know him as Patton, Professor Patton Duncan. Professor KABU Maat joins me on the phone lines this morning as we talk about some of these issues, mastering the fourth industrial revolution. We're going into elements and aspects of spirituality this morning. And why, yes, we're going there. We're also going to be talking about some other issues. I'm going to tell you about what they are shortly. But in the meantime, on the phone lines right now is my very good friend and brethren from long time, Everton Bailey. Everton Bailey, of course, holds a Bachelor of Engineering from UTech, Honours in Telecommunication, and a Master's of Science in Digital Technology. He's currently a University Lecturer of Instrumentation and Computer Programming, where he's also completing a PhD by publication. He has worked as Chief Electrical Engineer and Licensed Electrical Engineer for J. Adolphus Electrical Company. He's a member of the African Disciples, a guitarist and a vocalist, and you'd have heard me play a place called Earth in this space many times. We're going to be talking now about 5G technology, even as we talk about mastering the fourth industrial revolution with my brother Everton Bailey. Coming up later on, we'll be talking some more about the Internet of Things with Trevor Forrest, and he's going to join me on the phone lines. And then later on, for the majority of the program, as I said, you're going to be hearing from quantum physicist Professor KABU Maat. We go to the phone lines to speak now to Everton Bailey. Good morning, Rogs. How are you doing?
Yes, Hotep KABU.
Hotep, my brother. Welcome to the space.
Yes,
man. Right. You know, we've known each other for such a long time, and usually it's a music that we're tapping into, you know, a place called Earth, you know, African Disciples. You're a guitarist, you're a vocalist, and you're a member of the 12 Tribes of Israel.
Yes, yes.
Right. Tell me a little bit about that now. The music side of you. How long you been in the music?
Well, from about 1981, you know?
Yeah, a long time.
Antique, you know?
Yeah. All right. You're also now a PhD candidate. You're a PhD by publication. What's your area?
Wireless sensor network.
Mm-hmm. Wireless.
Yes. Wireless sensor network.
Wireless center network.
Yes.
And what does this? What are you focusing on in particular?
All right. Well, the PhD by publication, I have to try and get 3 published papers from some recognized institutions. So I go for the elite organization, like IEEE, which is the biggest technological organization in the world. Mm-hmm. So I was successful with one paper in 2018, and I was also successful with one more paper 2020. Mm-hmm. So I gone 2 out of the 3.
Right.
And to get the PhD, you have to have 9 credits. Well, I have 10 already, so.
You just have one more publication to go.
One more publication.
Right. And I don't know if you do you want to talk? You want to talk? Tell me a little bit. I don't know if you can a little bit about the research and what are you doing in exactly as far as the publication is concerned. We know you're getting those published at some of the highest levels and the most credible of spaces.
Right. Well, the first paper was E. coli on moat. Mm-hmm. All right. This E. coli stands for Extensible Calculus of Local Interaction.
All right. We're going to try to figure it out in a little while, but tell me more. Somebody understand it. Somebody listening understands it. Yeah.
I am putting it on a moat. What is a moat? Mm-hmm. A microcontroller and a radio. Okay. And, all right. To get it simpler to the public, I want to use it to solve their larceny problem.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like a device that can measure temperature, right? Mm-hmm. So when somebody comes in the field, the person is healthy and do not have fever, their average body temperature should be 37 degrees Celsius. Right. Now in Jamaica, we have a particular temperature, and it fluctuates, right? But like say 28 and go to 35. So when somebody goes in the field, we have the moat placed in the field that can monitor the movement, and we have the temperature for goat, cow, all form of animal.
Yes.
So we are supposed to consider from a particular location and know that based on that temperature, we have 2 goats, 5 cow, 3 goats. You know. So we could tell.
And 2 men.
When somebody is in the field. Okay.
Right. Yes. Wow, right. That's innovative. Yeah. And so the second one was what?
All right, the hurricane minimizer.
The hurricane minimizer. Yes. What's that?
Yes. All right. Even though Marcus,
are you at liberty to speak about it?
Yes.
All right, go ahead. Yeah.
Even though Marcus Garvey said that he will come again and he will come in the hurricane. Sometimes the hurricane give us a lot of problems and cause life, chaos, and pandemonium also.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
So I am designing a system that whenever the temperature in the sea, all right, there are certain areas which the hurricane starts from. So we will sprinkle some moat and some devices there.
Yes.
No, a fundamental fact is that if the temperature is not more than 26 degrees Celsius, a storm cannot take place.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I am proposing to once we have drone, boat, submarine, and so on. Once the temperature gets too high, and we sense that a tropical depression is taking place, then we will have a feedback system that will keep the sea cool and calm and prevent the tropical depression from taking place.
Wow, so this is different to those who go right into the hurricane.
Oh!
It's a whole different thing. This is preventing the hurricane. You said minimizer. This is minimizing the possibility of the hurricane.
Perfect. No. If it is successful, it can not only be called a hurricane minimizer, but it can be called a hurricane eliminator.
Wow, this is earth-shattering, isn't it? If this, I know. This is a big deal, isn't it?
Yes.
I know you're talking simple, but this is a big deal. This is yeah. And you tell me about the highest body just now. You're presenting this to the highest.
When these people see it, these people gravitate towards it right away, because 90% of the engineers worldwide want to publish with the IEEE.
Right. And you are publishing with the IEEE.
Yes. So it's a conference where you have to make a presentation also.
Yes.
So you get so you have to make a presentation and convince them.
Yes.
That right.
So do you have a prototype?
Aye, that is the second question they ask me.
Oh, okay.
You're a good panelist.
Yes, man. I'm a good student.
Yeah, but I have a real-time simulation.
Yes.
Right? Because, all right. You see that question that you asked me?
Mm-hmm.
After I done make the presentation to IEEE, they asked me the same question. If I have a prototype. No, a prototype with a submarine is not a cheap thing,
Okay. So the funding is critical.
The funding.
Right. But I would think that something like this, that there would be, the funding would be, you'll be tripping over yourself to determine where to get who to take the funding from.
Oh, okay. Well, now that it is going to be published worldwide.
Yes.
Maybe somebody will come on board, or some organization will come on board. And let us try this.
At the IEEE level. Wow. We come to talk about 5G, but your research is really something. And I think, Ruggs, I didn't know that I know a Nobel winner. But as my brother Noel said, but the thing for me though is that it's something we have to talk about. Again, I think I want you to hear more about these two publications and what you're proposing, what you have designed, and what it means for the globe, just what it means to the world. Brilliant. So you're using the technology to do this, and here we go now. We talk about what's happening now in the fourth industrial revolution. So part of the fourth industrial revolution, obviously, is what we're talking about when we say, how do we, as a people, prepare for it? What do we do? What we do with our minds? How do we, and we'd have to be doing some of it before, but it's never too late to start. And here you're talking about dealing with predator larceny from a temperature level, minimizing and eliminating hurricanes in the future, which probably is the fifth industrial revolution. We don't know, but hopefully it's in the fourth, which is in the time right ahead, because you've gone so far with it, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. So I know another thing that you have been looking at, and we want to talk about, because you're also somebody who is really versed on telecommunications. You know the digital technologies. You've been looking at the convergence of the digital technologies and what's happening there. And so I wanted to talk to you specifically about 5G. There's just so much information right now out there in the space and disinformation about 5G technology that we are really confused in some areas. So what is 5G technology?
Well, 5G technology is simply coming from 4G. right? So what we want to do, we want to search the internet, but we want to use Internet of Things, IoT. But 5G, in 5G, data is a strategic resource in the 21st century. No, all right. Data is used for artificial intelligence, surveillance, machine learning, social media to do influence. So it is a powerful thing. Data. No. When we talk about the CCP, a lot of companies. All right. When I somebody asked me, you know who? About the 4G and the 5G and the 3G. But what I never take into consideration is when, even though 5G is being deployed and it is in the trial phase, 4G is still going on. So to say 5G doesn't exist, that is wrong. It exists. But a lot of people do not have 5G phone. That is in the developed countries, right? Like the United States and China and so on and so forth. So you would have to have a network and a phone. Not necessarily a phone, but let us say a phone. Just for simplification. So a lot of people have 4G phone and not a 5G phone. So that is to come, but it is being deployed. It has been deployed in some places, and there is a lot of angst among so many about what this technology is doing, especially from the putting up the masts and so on. Yes.
So is there, in terms of a danger from what you have seen, what you're looking at, help us to understand. What this is,
All right, well, right now, if we think about social distance, and if we think that a doctor can stay 3 kilometers away and perform surgery from a remote location, right? That is great.
All right, so that is something that can only happen with the 5G technology. You're saying?
That's right.
Right. So and you're saying that is that might be one of the pluses.
Yes. Right. All right. So another thing now, it costs to implement 5G because 3G and 4G and 2G can work on the same antenna. But 5G cannot work on those infrastructure. You have to put in a lot more antenna where that cost would be passed onto the consumer. Where you don't know that we don't have much money to spend.
So it's passing on to you through the phone you use or
their provider. Would have to charge you more because once they put that's why Babandi, right? Babandi have a song that when I saw Babandi, I said to Babandi, Baba, are you a professor? Bob said, why you say that? That song that you sing, that multinational cook learn them trick by the book.
Look here. I think you just find a way to tell me what 5G technology is, you know. But I tell you something, but I drop it, Bob, and man. What has got multinationals are cooks learning tricks by the book? Yes.
Is Alpha Boy School, Alpha Boy, you know? Alpha, Alpha Boy School, or something like that, right? So I say, what? Because the man used some term that you have to sit down and look and say, well, this man can write music, you know?
Yeah.
You know? Right. But back to the 5G now, and so on and so forth. All right. Some people claim that telecommunication worker receive cancer, tumor, and so on and so forth from it, right? And not only that, it is having some form of political implication. Because Huawei, which belongs to China.
Right, Huawei, yes.
Yes, right, Huawei.
Huawei, yes.
Yes, right, Huawei. They are providing their instruments for 30 to 40% less than their competitor. And now America sort of ban Huawei, Huawei or any company that is using their thing. So some people start out, and when America ban them, well, they must to take side with America. But some people were bold and brave enough to say, look, but Nokia and Cisco make them chip in China. So they could implement certain things down there through that.
Right, in terms of what America, the US was accusing Huawei of.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's yet one country now that is in the 5G thing. But like I said, the 5G thing is a powerful thing because I am talking what I know as being the truth. When them do the surveillance, like you come outside now and the camera then pick up your face. The camera with Huawei instrument, them have about it compiled to about 65 different languages and send back the information to our CCP because China built a firewall that make it difficult to penetrate and know people's data. But on the Western side now, the Western people are more interested in protecting their network and not their data.
So this gives 5G, when we talk about surveillance dictatorship. Right. You really can't have that without 5G right now. I mean, we're having it to some extent, but with 5G, this is where you go. Surveillance dictatorship being part of the fourth industrial revolution. Yes. So from what I'm understanding, from what you're saying, the 5G technology lends itself to that kind of surveillance.
Right.
And yeah, go ahead.
Good, and it have it bad. You know?
Right.
But look here now. After doing a little research now, this is the Running African program.
Yes.
And I noticed that there is no African company that is, trying to build something for this or build something for that.
For the 5G technology?
Yes. Yeah, So Africa, people do what they want to do with Africa. Even want to take Africa as a test bed for the COVID
vaccine.
19.
Right. For the virus and the vaccine. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Right. Right. So wait. What I don't have African company coming together. No? As a unity.
So so your thought as an expert, and I just let our listeners know, as a Rastafarian, somebody who's talking from your perspective, you have a unique perspective on all of this, being also an expert on science and technology in particular. Your thinking on this 5G is that it has its good, it has its bad. Before we go to Africa, here is another thing that's happening here, just generally. If you just have to go on the social media to see it, there are so many who are saying that the SARS-CoV-2 that we're experiencing now, the coronavirus, the COVID-19, that the 5G technology is responsible for what is being called the virus, so that there's no virus. Many are saying that this is caused by the 5G technology. I notice that you laugh. Why you laugh?
No. I must laugh. Because that is ridiculous and preposterous. Believe me.
That's ridiculous and preposterous. Tell me how.
Of course.
Yes.
Because, all right. First of all, a virus is a very tricky thing. Before this come out, we used to discuss medical issues.
Yeah.
I would say a virus will want to go in a bird.
Yeah.
But the bird won't come and pick up on the virus. But if the virus go in a worm, then when the early bird try to catch the worm, it will also pick up the virus. All right. Based on the pangolin structure, right?
Yeah.
The pangolin structure and the wild market in China. You see, not because I am not a meat eater, right? So if you eat certain things, I am not. Some people try to say it is a man-made thing or whatsoever, but I believe that if you eat rat, bat, pangolin, dog, dog have rabies, rat have leptospirosis. Right. How much can the immune system resist all those things? You understand?
So you're dismissing the theory that many are saying is a conspiracy theory that 5G technology is directly responsible for the coronavirus, and you're saying it's preposterous. But let's just talk about 5G technology in terms of the possibility then of it being harmful to the human body. I'm sure that you would have looked at this. Is it harmful in any way, considering the radio frequency? Talk to us about that. Help us to understand.
All right.
Right. Yeah.
All right. No. I don't want when it is with the type of thing what them put in a food, make it warm up.
Microwave.
Yeah, microwave. Microwave is 2.5 gigahertz, right? So when you put your food inside a microwave, is it getting there a frequency at 2.4 gigahertz, right? And from a nutritional point of view, they say the nutritional value is very low, you know?
So the microwave kill the nutritional value.
Right.
So how would go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, man, I was asking you about the impact of 5G on the human body, even if it don't cause the coronavirus.
All right. Insurance company, and mainstream media claim. You look at one research and then say, no, nothing like that. And then you look at another one and then say 250,000 telecommunication workers have cancer. You know? No. All right. So we say using the phone here, we cause neck cancer and ear cancer and all that. But I don't think it is to any great extent.
So how would like third radio frequency 5G technology impact the climate change in the individual's body, such as you talk about the temperature, increasing the core body temperature, increasing cell membrane permeability, and whether or not this can cause some kind of disease at our diseased state? Because you just talked about the microwave. And there's a reason why you mentioned the microwave. Why is that?
Right. Well, to be truthful, you know, naturally, people make research and find out that when they turn off all telecommunication things, the plants them grow like an organic farm. But once the telecommunication come in, as it is a man-made thing, it essentially suppress the growth of the plant. Oh yes, and then say it kill bees, it kill birds. I don't have the tangible proof for that. Even the thing what them go around now and spray for the mosquito, it kill bees, you know.
So the 5G technology it uses microwave. Talk to us about the band.
Oh, the band is 30 gigahertz to 300 gigahertz. Giga is just 10 to the 9, right? And hertz is just the unit where I'm actually measure frequency, right? So, up to 4G use 6 gigahertz, but when you go to the 5G a branch now, you've gone 30 gigahertz to, because it's a band, so it's a selected, frequency. So it's a 30 to 300 gigahertz.
All right. Hold a point. I have to take a break. Hold a point for me, Ruggs. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back.
Yes.
All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa, and my very special guest on the phone lines is Everton Bailey. Everton Bailey holds a Bachelor of Engineering Honours from UTech in Telecommunications and a Master of Science in Digital Technology from the University of the West Indies. He's currently a university lecturer in Instrumentation and Computer Programming, and he's also completing his PhD by publication. He's talking to us now about 5G technology. Ruggs, you're there?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
But Ruggs, a lot of, we're going to come quickly back to you're talking about the band and so on. But a lot of persons, and I'm seeing this now, are disagreeing with your analysis of 5G technology in terms of whether or not how dangerous it is. Now, you're saying that it is not directly, in your opinion, it's not directly connected to the coronavirus. People are also disagreeing with that, and you laugh again. So people are disagreeing with that.
There's a terminology in the telecommunication that them call SARS. I am wondering if somebody read that and get the wrong impression.
Yes, you mean SARS?
Yes, SARS.
You're wondering if the wrong impression.
Like it is an acronym for something, right? So I am wondering if somebody read that and believe that,
Yeah, I'm of a similar view to you that this particular virus, SARS-CoV-2, is not a new virus, regardless of the fact that we're told it's novel. That if you listen to and understand where this is coming from in terms of it's being a coronavirus, and connect it back to Wuhan, where there are the virology labs, some of the biggest virology labs in the world. 2 of them are based in Wuhan, and so and that this is where it came out of. That 2 things cannot be true. It can't be that old of a virus and then be caused by the 5G technology. So I don't understand that. But then outside of that conversation is the other one, where here we have a new technology, the 5G technology, building up on the 1, 2, 3, 4. That you have, you've talked about the microwave situation. You're saying that if you microwave your food, it kills the nutrient. In the same way, if you microwave the body, don't it kill the cells?
Yeah, but I am not a medical doctor, but there's a term where them call homeostasis.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So you know that our body is supposed to be resilient and have the ability to fight the disease once it gets the right nutrient.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right? So sometimes
you're talking about the immune system, the ability of the immune system to respond to exposure to radio waves and radiation.
Yes. I think the body is supposed to
but as you say, you're not a medical doctor, and I suppose you can, because the immune system is what it is when you're talking about this. I know I'm talking over you, but when you're talking about the cells, but so from an expert's perspective. And I go back to the fact again that you're a Rastafarian. You're somebody who's thinking health, and somebody who's thinking natural living, and so on. You're still saying the 5G technology is not as dangerous as people are saying that it is.
Somebody come to me and say, do you remember a group called the Ethiopian? Hong Kong flu, sunset. 5G was around then? Eh?
Right, so you're saying that Hong Kong flu never did have nothing to do with the 5G. All right, right, or the Spanish flu.
I did see that I'm implement Shalom leading. You understand? 5G is not even implemented in every country yet. It's just being rolled out.
Is there do people have the concern that so many have, that this will have negative impact on health? Are they right to be concerned?
Well, all right. Research. I have a friend of mine. I did something, and the man said, the Rasta man said, if you eat banana, ripe banana, some bump come out on his hand. You understand? So that means to say ripe banana bad enough. It means that something is wrong with him.
Okay.
Yeah, you understand?
Yes, an allergic reaction to maybe the potassium.
Right. So we want more tangible proof, because research is always an ongoing thing, which I support.
Yes.
So I am not blanking out anybody and say, oh, it is not. But first of all, 5G exists long time. You see the KU band? You see the KU band? The KU band and the C band, right? That because a lot of network is being cut across the head now as we speak, you know. It is in the air, but we don't have a demodulator to get out that signal out of it. Right?
And so that now, so in layman terms, what that mean? What that mean now? Explain to that.
It means that as we talk now,
yeah,
a whole heap of signal is in the air. Because remember, say, a basic radio system or a communication system have two parts. It has a transmitter and it has a receiver. So you can't tell people what to transmit. But if you have the receiving thing that can receive it, then you can extract it from the ear. So as we speak now, a lot of wave is in the air amongst us. But there is no demodulator for it.
So what are people like you in your field in academia? How are you viewing the 5G technology? Are you listening to what people are saying, and how are you dealing with the information regarding that?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things in it, you know. There's a lot of things in it because America banned Huawei instruments.
Right.
America have a lot of friends.
Right.
Right. I am not saying I am an enemy to America, you know, but I am just talking some truth.
Yes.
Right? I just talking some facts.
And that is what we want in this space at all times, regardless of whether we agree, yes or no. It's the truth that we want. Yes.
Right. So I can't see. I am trying hard, putting on some binoculars to see how could this cause that. That no make much of a sense to me.
Right. This is what you study. This is what you know, and you're not seeing that.
People, we choose to eat dog. Why are you eating a dog? Why are you eating a rat? Why are you eating a rat? And you want to blame something else? Your teeth shape like a vegetarian, originally speaking. And some people don't put 87 in them car. They only put 90. But some people want to put all manner of things inside them belly and believe say, I know why you eat the file and something. You know?
Well, you see, we can talk about this, you know, ad nauseum. I'm hearing you as a technologist, as a scientist, as a person who's been studying this for a very long time, who has the expert knowledge, who coming out of academia, but also coming out of the Rastafari community, talking in the space of the Africa Forum. I was been a member and a long-standing family of the Africa Forum, a musician, a singer, and a guitarist, who's saying to us, you know, in the Jamaican language, I do not see this connection from an expert perspective, but that there needs to be more research done on 5G to determine its impact on the human body, its impact on other health issues. I hear you loud and clear. My brother, Ruggs, thank you so much. Long time, but I'm a good brethren. Yeah, man. Give thanks. Make you the final word.
Yeah.
A final. You want to throw in a final word?
Yeah. Well, I am saying that His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I is the only king that used his entire palace to become a university. Right? So when you give up that privacy and palace to make people stand here, there, and whatever, come and research and what you want to research, and I can come back and come say, outside university, we're supposed to get a lot of solution to our present problem. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
So basically that, so I support research, right? And you will find some fraudulent researcher. You understand?
Yeah.
We are like the genuine one. How you genuinely see? Because right now with the COVID thing, right now, we want to hear the right thing. We don't want China cover up that and this and that person
or China.
cover up that, because it's not going to solve. Because I am a member of the human race.
Yeah.
You understand?
We'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Everton Bailey. Ruggs. Give thanks for brethren. Give thanks. You know, Everton Bailey Ruggs, you know him from the African Disciples place called Earth. He holds a Bachelor of Engineering in Telecommunications honors. He has a Master of Science in Digital Technology from UWI. He is currently a university lecturer on instrumentation and computer programming. He is a PhD candidate now by publication, and you hear him talk about what he's developing. And he's a Rasta man. And so he has come into this space as a Rasta man, but as a scientist. When I asked him first to talk on this topic, he said, you know, I know somewhat of it, but to talk on it, let me go now and do my further research, because it is a research that will tell us what we're looking for. So he has been looking at this closely, and he's debunking the theory that the 5G technology is connected to the COVID-19. He's also saying that much more needs to be done on 5G technology to determine the danger of it. But understanding what it is, you know, right now it is not what many are saying. All right. That being said, though, we're still looking at the mastering the fourth industrial revolution, right? This is some of the issues we're talking about. He made reference there to the Internet of Things. Now, how does this work for African people? How does this help us in any way? Does it help us? These are some of the questions that we have to ask coming out of the lockdown, coming out of the physical isolation, coming out of the social distancing. Is there any way that we can tap into the technology, science and technology being used to advance a safer and a healthier planet? As we said earlier, sustained attention, sound judgment, evidence-based debate, and assessments. You know, I don't know if you know about the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, but the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists have set the clock, the doomsday clock, at 100 seconds to midnight. They looked at the challenges posed by man-made threats, they said, to our existence, and they've been doing that since the inception in 1945. And they have been measuring how close we are, that's the world, the globe, to a catastrophe. And so they've had in place this thing they call the doomsday clock. Now, as you know, everything is connected. Everything is connected. And I've been looking at what the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists have been doing since November 2019. And in November 2019, they moved the doomsday clock, and you can research the doomsday clock. The doomsday clock came out of this group, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, who in 1945, and then I think they set it at, it was what was it? Not quite sure. I'll tell you how many minutes to midnight. The furthest it has ever been from midnight is 17 minutes to midnight. And the closest it has been before they moved it to 100 seconds to midnight was 2 minutes to midnight. So it has been 2 minutes to midnight from 2018, 2019. And then in 2020, they moved that clock to 100 seconds to midnight. It's set each year since 1947. And they're really answering two questions. Is humanity safer or at a greater risk this particular year, any year that they're in, compared to the year before? And this year compared to nearly 75 years ago. All right, and they've been setting the symbolic clock in that way. So the bulletin warned on January 23, 2020, that the current environment was profoundly unstable and that urgent action and immediate engagement was required by everybody in the world. We're going to be playing a clip when basically this is just the announcement, and then we're going to listen to Robert Latif, member of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, speaking about why the clock was moved to 100 seconds to midnight. Basically, once again, just to underscore, this is why they say they do. It's a group of scientists, right, who have been together since the 1940s. And this is what they're saying, that we are 1 minute and 40 seconds to a great catastrophe. They determined that in 2019 in November. They also determined that something urgent had to be done. And you must remember that I said everything is connected. And we don't have to, I'm just going to do this and then we can come forward and talk about that, right? But let us hear first of all, the announcement from the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists on the moving of the doomsday clock from 2 minutes to midnight to 100 seconds to midnight.
It would be a privilege and an honor to move the hands of the doomsday clock away from midnight, but our current situation does not warrant that. The doomsday clock continues to tick forward, requiring us to recalibrate both our clock and the urgency we bring to today's challenges. As far as the bulletin and the doomsday clock is concerned, the world has entered into a realm of a 2-minute warning, a period when danger is high and the margin for error is low. To move the clock closer to midnight moves us into a period that requires newfound vigilance and focus from leaders and citizens alike, as if every second matters. The moment demands attention and new creative responses if decision makers continue to fail to act, pretending that being inside the 2 minutes is no more urgent than the preceding period. Citizens around the world should rightfully echo the words of climate activist Greta Thunberg and ask, how dare you? With this in mind, I'd like to now ask Jerry Brown, Mary Robinson, and Ban Ki-moon to approach the clock to reveal the 2020 time. Today, the Bulletin of the Atomic Scientists moves the hands of the doomsday clock. It is 100 seconds to midnight.
All right. So that decision, this was done on January 23, 2020. Do you remember a few weeks ago, I said in this space that between January 25 and February 28, 10 CEOs stepped down from their positions, some selling everything that they had in shares. Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, sold everything, all of his shares. I know we don't know what him do with that money. But that 10 CEOs stepped down. And we were trying to figure out why. Now, I'm not saying that this is why. Now. I'm just saying that everything is connected. And the more you go, and it's not a rabbit hole, but the more you go, the further you go, is the more you're seeing the connectivity. And so this was a missing piece, and I do not like missing pieces of puzzles, and I do puzzles very well. 100 pieces, 100 pieces, 15,000 pieces. Just give them to me and I'll put them together in no time, right? So this is a missing piece, and now I'm throwing in this missing piece, and let us see where we go with it. We also heard, though, from one of the members, the board members of the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, speaking about the information warfare technology, and using the language of war just the same, talking about why the clock was moved to 100 seconds to midnight. You hear the name of it, the doomsday clock. We're supposed to be frightened. All right, let's go to him. All right.
For sure, nuclear war and climate change are indeed existential threats to humanity. Yet there are other developments in technology that portend a dangerous global instability. Cyber-enabled information warfare strikes at the very heart of what makes human interaction possible: information and trust. Add to that artificial intelligence, hypersonic weapons, biological threats, and the movement of conflict to outer space, and we have a witch's brew of ingredients for global conflict. The continued use in 2019 of untruths, exaggerations, and misrepresentations by world leaders in response to what they deem fake news has made worse an already dangerous situation. Active political antagonism by government towards science and disdain for expert opinion create fear and doubt regarding well-established science about climate change and other urgent challenges. In 2019, for example, hostility toward experts manifested itself in the wholesale trashing of respected science advisory boards. The U.S. administration ordered that 1/3 of the existing science committees be disbanded. The emergence of so-called deep fakes, audio and video recordings that are essentially undetectable as false, threatens to further undermine the ability to separate truth from fiction. And the resulting falsehoods hold the potential to create economic, social, and military chaos. Senior world leaders publishing doctored videos and photos of political adversaries seem to set a horrible example of what may come next. If nuclear weapons, climate change, and information warfare weren't bad enough, other new technologies aggravated the danger in 2019. Genetic engineering and synthetic biology technologies are now increasingly affordable and spreading rapidly. Dangerous regimes continue to work on potential pathogens. Artificial intelligence develops at a frenzied pace. In addition to the concern about its use in weapons that make kill decisions, AI is now being used in or planned for military command and control systems. In 2019, the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency initiated work on a battlefield system that can decide and act on its own. And Russia announced a successful field test of its AI-controlled combat command and control system. There's increasing investment in hypersonic weapons that will severely limit the times available to targeted nations and create a dangerous degree of ambiguity and uncertainty that could lead to rapid escalation. At a minimum, these weapons are highly destabilizing and presage a new arms race. In 2019, Russia announced the deployment of the Avangard hypersonic missile glide vehicle, and the U.S. successfully tested a hypersonic cruise missile. Meanwhile, space has become a new arena for weapons development, with multiple countries testing and deploying anti-satellite or ASAT capabilities, and the United States creating a new military service, the Space Force, one of whose main goals is to prepare for space combat. In 2019, the U.S. Secretary of the Air Force publicly threatened to conduct a show of force in space. India tested a kinetic ASAT. Russia launched yet another Inspector satellite capable of close approaches. And the U.S. administration called for plans to station missile defense interceptors in orbit. Physicists discuss the concept of unstable equilibrium, in which a system, if pushed only slightly, will accelerate away from equilibrium. And I underline accelerate away in an attempt to reach a lower energy state. Just as in physics, so too can a fragile global peace be upset by a seemingly minor event. It seems the world is a pressure cooker in which a disturbance or an imperfection somewhere could create such an event. The military is already under enormous stress with multiple repeated deployments. The system is highly complex, heavily computer controlled, and tightly networked. Combined with the recent more aggressive and bellicose posture of the most highly armed countries, an uneasy equilibrium exists around the world. It is a high-energy system that only requires a simple mistake somewhere in a world bristling with weapons for a war to start and escalate catastrophically. For a variety of reasons that include a corrupted and manipulated media environment, democratic governments and other institutions that should be working to address these threats have failed to rise to the challenge.
And this is where I do agree with the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists and the scientists, Robert Latif, saying they're corrupted and manipulated and controlled media environment facilitates the failure of so many to rise to challenges. Now, these are scientists. These are Nobel scientists, by the way. The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists are made up of some 10 or 13 Nobel Prize winners. These are researchers and so on. What we're doing here is having an evidence-based discussion and analysis of the time we find ourselves in, and to say where do we fit in as African people and how do we master our space, our time. We are going to be speaking with a quantum physicist later on. You heard the scientist there talking just now. He's also a physicist, by the way, talking about the unstable equilibrium and how, just one thing, a simple thing can render that, can push the equilibrium in the other direction. So we have, a lot to talk about. We can't ignore what's going on around us, even while we shelter in place, while we physically isolate, while we social distance. So, a quick break. We'll be right back.